Hey guys, welcome to the next episode of the B Schmaltzy Show. Today we're joined by my friend Jonathan Gehrig, and we're going to really hear about what it's like to help businesses grow with Armor Consulting. Ready, set, here we are. So that was actually not the intro video I was trying to click, but the first one didn't work. Still pretty cool. So welcome. So this is Jonathan Gehrig. He's founder and CEO of Armor Up Consulting. So tell us a little more about what Armor Up does.
Yeah, thanks so much for that intro. And I love the intro video. It was really good. Nice seeing your family and everybody having fun. So Armor Up Consulting. Yeah. So we are a growth consulting agency, a business growth consulting firm, and we help companies to identify a 18 to 60 month growth strategy to move the needle forward and help them grow by 50% plus per year.
Awesome. Now let's take a step back. How did you get to this point? Where did you start, and what's the path that led you to here?
Yeah, that's great question. So my mom and my dad met. I'm just kidding. I won't go back that far. Man, I started my first business while I was in college, 19 years old, and immediately realized that I was different in the realm of performance. And I realized that because I was quickly asked to speak on stages, quickly asked to come and do workshops, and 19 years old. And I had adults, as a 19-year-old, I didn't consider myself an adult, but I had adults asking me how to improve their business, improve their sales, things like that. So I quickly began that process of just educating people on sales and leadership, and then eventually leadership. Then that rolled into working my way up to sort of that C-suite, right? If I did well with the sales manager, then I did well with the VP of sales. Then I started working with the COO and the CEOs. And so that's where the progression sort of happened. And then in 2017, I just went full-time, full consulting and built a consulting team. I've got phenomenal consultants that have all been in business and longer than I have, that just put together a really phenomenal team that delivers. And we know how to help businesses scale from all four realms of HR, financial, marketing, and sales.
Awesome. You got some amazing programs. I love the programs that you and I have worked on and really showing the growth and how it happens. So let's spin it a little bit more now. Let's go from here. Here's where you went. Here's how you got here. Now tell us more about your family life. You know, you've got a small tribe going on, if not a big tribe. I mean, it depends on people's perception here.
Yeah. There's 7 of us in my household. I've got my wife, myself, my 4 boys, who my oldest is 6, my youngest is a year and a half, almost year and 4 months, I guess. And then my brother-in-law, who has Down syndrome, also lives with us. So we've got a full house full of boys, and my dog is a male. So my wife, she loves it. She loves being around boys. So it's great.
So tell us more about that. How did that transition go?
Man, transitioning into, being a business owner and having no kids, there's no way you can appreciate it without actually then having kids and then having to do business. Right. So I've worked from home for a long time. Don't go into a physical office, right? 2017, I said, no more physical offices. We have our 1-year-old, and man, that transition, quite frankly, was tough. I had worked from home many times actually before as a sales rep or a 1099 contractor doing outdoor door knocking sales. And I had to do my paperwork first thing in the morning at home. And then I'd go out and knock on businesses. And then I'd go back home at night and do my numbers and submit stuff over email. And then when I had my 1-year-old and my wife was pregnant again, and we were in the house and I was trying to work, and I'd hear the baby cry, and it was a tough transition. You hear that baby cry and you're like, oh, do I need to help? No, you're good. And so I'm easily distracted. So the transition was tough, but I hired a coach. And a coach helped me get through that process of going from being single and just with a wife and having businesses to then kids. And so that coach was instrumental in helping me make sure that I nailed down the times that I was going to take intentional breaks to see my kids and see my wife, and the times that I was going to work. And so instrumental in that transition.
Yeah. And then you added number 2, number 3, number 4. So how'd you meet your wife?
Yeah, I actually met my wife at a leadership event.
Yeah.
And I was speaking on stage. So she was in the crowd. And then afterwards, a mutual friend of ours introduced us. And then I left, and she tried to add me on Facebook, and I declined. And 6 months later, fate would have it, she popped up again, and I said, well, let me go ahead and add her now. And I added her, and we just started talking over online. And,
really?
Yeah, started talking online. So we met at an event. Mutual friend. She grew up with my best friend's sister, and then my best friend knew her well, but they didn't tell either one of us that they knew that we were dating, type thing. It was really funny. They kind of were messing with us. And long story short, we dated for 6 months, got married 5 months later, and now we're 10 years down the line.
Nice.
Married. Yeah, and I'm a salesman at heart. So I told my wife on the very first call I had with her, I said, hey, let's have a call. I don't like talking on Facebook. I said, let's book a call. We booked a call. And the first thing that came out of my mouth was, after I said, hi, how are you? I said, hey, before we move forward, I'd like to set the upfront contract. I'm looking for a wife. Would you like to continue the conversation? And she said, yes. And 4.5 hours later, at the end, I said, will you marry me? And that's not when we got engaged, but that is exactly how it happened. But I flew up a week after to DC, visited her. And yeah, like I said, we hit it off right away. So
Steve's in the house. You're gonna see the interaction from the crowd here. That we'll get some comments we can interact with. Good to see you, Steve. Glad you're joining us here.
And it was the schmaltzy way. I think I took the schmaltzy path back then. I just didn't know.
Right. That's right. So that's funny that you talked to her up front about that. Here's where I'm at. I'm looking for a wife. Do you still want to continue this conversation? That's awesome, because that's what we do in sales. We're like, okay, here's what we got. Do you want to keep talking?
Honesty is the best policy.
It is. And being up front's really, really good as well.
Right.
How did you, when you guys first started dating? Because I know you're really gung ho. You're talking with all these VPs, these COOs and COOs, CEOs, and working your way up. How did that really affect the dating? Did it make it challenging? Spend time together when you're putting so much effort in?
So my wife is also entrepreneurial at heart. She was doing about 4 things. She was a model. She ran an ice cream shop that her family owned. So she managed an ice cream shop. And then she had another business and another side hustle gig. And so we actually hung out from about 11 p.m. Until about 1 a.m. And that's when we got to hang out. So I slept at a friend's house in Bethesda, Maryland, Alan Reynolds, good friend of mine. They now live down here in South Florida near us now. But that was when we were up in Bethesda, Maryland. And I would literally take the metro as late as I could. I'd go over to her ice cream shop, help her close up, hang out with her. And I flew up there 2 times from North Carolina and hung out with her whenever we could. And so we would hang out middle of the night. She would close up shop. She would drive home. I would go back to my friend's house. And then in the morning, we would meet up for coffee first thing. Like, I'm talking 6:45. So like barely any sleep. And then both of us would do our work, during the day and hang out at night. And after I visited twice, I said, I'm moving up here. So I moved up. And the rest is history, man. We didn't get to hang out a ton, even while we were dating, but we hung out every day, and it was just very intentional.
Yeah. So cool. That's awesome. That's a great story. And not very many people would actually put forth that much effort when both are in that kind of, entrepreneurial mindset, and that little of time to spend at that hour of the night. One of the 2 parties is usually like, forget you. I'm down the road. That's a great story.
Too much work.
Yeah, that's right. So tell me more about how you got to, we talked about your kind of progression through the ranks and then up to starting Armor Up. Is there anything profound that happened along the way that really said, hey, I'm going to do this on my own?
Well, I had worked on my own for many years, right? So while I owned a business or two, I also worked in the corporate world. So 8 to 5, and then 5 to midnight was like my time for business, and weekends were time for business, right? So I was working around the clock. I grew up a workhorse, so raised by a workhorse, family of workhorses. My third cousin, my kid's fourth cousin is Lou Gehrig, known as the Iron Horse, right? So like you just put the work in, and that's just part of it's in my DNA, right? To put the work in. The progression to going out on my own was actually sparked because I had my firstborn child, I had a business, and I was the COO at a medical services facility, a treatment center. So I had worked my way up from just a standard rep, senior rep, manager, director, COO for a year, and realized that the 100 hours a week was not worth it. No amount of money is worth not having any time with my family. I literally grew up believing I wanted to be a dad. That's it. I want to be a dad. I want to have a wife. I want to be a husband. And it took me not seeing my child basically for a year, his first year. And I finally I said, I'm done. I'm not able to build my business, and I'm going to do that full time. And I took that leap. And left that very good paying job and went full time 100% on my own.
Nice. And here's another one from Steve. Yeah, I met Amy when she had just turned 17. I was in a state I had never been in before. I knew one person. I took a liking to Amy, so I stayed a few weeks longer than planned. I asked her to marry me before we had ever even kissed. The next day I drove away and let her finish high school. We met in January and got married in December. What were we thinking?
Married 45 years. Yeah. I love that story. That's amazing.
Yeah, this is so Steve Hardison. He's the one I was telling you about that, I don't know if I sent you this one or not, but he's the subject of this book that was written by his wife and
yes.
And one of his good friends, Alan Thompson.
So I have it. I bought it. Yeah, you told me to get it. I went and got it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Now you just have to read it.
Yeah, now I've got to read it. Yeah. Yeah.
But no, amazing guy. I've met him a couple of times, and when we were in Arizona just a couple of weeks ago for our niece's wedding, we got to stop by his house and check out. He was not there, but we got to check out what he calls the 1111 wall, which I hope I'm not butchering this here, Steve, but it was a blank concrete wall in his backyard. And at the time he said, okay, I need to get this covered up somehow. And so one of our mutual friends, Nadine, lovingly known as Gam Gam now, she was an artist at the time, a painter, and he asked her to paint the wall. Well, before he did that, when you read the book, you'll read a section called The Document, where people make their declarations about who they are. They're similar to affirmations, but it's talking about who you are. I am this, I am that, I'm the best father in the world, to however people say it. And he had all of his current clients come in and write all of their I am statements on this wall, and then had it painted over with these murals that all have different names and are all phenomenal. So we got to go over there with the family and take some pictures, check out the wall. It was kind of cool. And then he also set us up with the nail salon that him and his wife use, because all of us were getting our manicure, pedicures for the wedding and everything. So it was kind of a fun deal.
Nice.
Yeah.
Man, I'd love to see a picture of that wall. That sounds amazing.
I'll show you some when we talk tomorrow. I'll pull up. It'd be kind of challenging for me to do it right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, and actually I can send you digital copies. I got a whole thing of them. But so that was kind of fun, and it's been a fun story with him. But yeah, he's got a good story when it comes to his wife and all that. So with Armor Up, let's go back to that. You went full time. Was it Armor Up right from the start?
Yeah, so it was, and I had been coaching people in sales, leadership. I had moved into executive coaching, and what ended up transpiring was I had a handful of clients that were sticking with me for like 4.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I had some clients for a very long time, right? In the realm of coaching, that's a pretty long time when you're coaching someone for that long. And what ended up happening was during that sort of long time in coaching, I would sort of move from like coach to consultant. And then we started building out plans together, opposed to me just saying, hey, go build this plan, right? As a coach, we started building out things together. And then I hired some people to sort of help with some of the progression of those things. And so I realized that being in, I was trained in consulting, the full scope of growth consulting by Southwestern family of companies and Sandler training. Mm-hmm. So I had some of the most long lasting consulting companies out there. Sandler's been around since the 50s, Southwestern since 1850s, I think 1862 or 1850, something like that. Right. It's been a long time. Nice. And so I just realized that I would prefer to consult people rather than just stay in the coaching. So I kind of progressed into, hey, I do full consulting. We do it on a proposal basis. And then oftentimes the CEO or one of the leaders actually does get coaching from myself or one of my other team members. Cause I do have an executive coach on my team that I subcontract with, and she's, phenomenal individual, PhD and all this stuff, but she's a career coach. I want to consult, right? I want to tell people how to double and triple their business and how to secure it. In the event that something happens to you, can your family replace you so that they keep making income? Or if you do plan to exit in 10 years, 15 years, what does that look like? Most people, they one day they realize I want to sell my business. They don't understand. They're 3 years out. You want to get you want to get the right valuation. You're 3 years out. The moment from the time you make a decision to 3 years out, that takes 3 years to basically go through that process, because most businesses do not put systems and processes in place, SOPs, in order to be an actual business, right? So then the owner oftentimes has a job. So the owner is stuck working as an employee for their own business. So guess what's going to happen when they sell it? Not only are you 3 years out, now you're 5 years out, because now they want to buy it, but then they want to have you around for 2 more years. Right. To transition. So we help people with solidifying those systems and processes. We start with we call our crawl, walk, run. So we usually do like a 1 month or a 3 month engagement. Then we move to the 12 month, then the multi-year, right, to help them implement. So, yeah.
No, it's funny you mentioned the 3 years, because that's I've got a local friend of mine here that I met recently, who probably will be a future guest on the show, Jonathan Bates. But he literally, that's what he does, is flips companies. And he flat out said he won't even, you talk about somebody wanting to sell their company after they've started it, and you talk about 3 years. He said he won't even look at a company unless they're established for 3 to 5 years, and then he'll do the evaluation of those last 3 to 5 years before he even considers going any further with that. So it's funny you mentioned that. And again, like you said, oftentimes they want you to stick around and make sure things transition, whether it's, 6 months, a year, 2 years. It's fallen in line with things that I've conversations I've had with other people. So it's fun that you understand that and you're able to help people with that and help others understand that. Cause like you said, I don't know that many people really do when they're trying to get to that point.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. It's just challenging because you get too busy to actually think about your business, to think on your business. And so owners, you get the idea, you spend a ton of time thinking about it, then you plan it out, you spend a ton of time thinking about it, you launch, you're thinking through that process, and then all of a sudden something happens. You get overwhelmed, you get overloaded. You're an employee of your own company. You're wearing 15 hats. The first person you hire is wearing 15 hats. The next person you hire is wearing 12 hats. And you don't stop enough to do the number one money-making activity that an owner can do, which is think on your business.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So did you ever feel that way when it came to Armor Up, when you first got going, or even when you started really scaling? Did you ever feel that overwhelmed, or holy Toledo, I'm wearing too many hats now?
Oh, absolutely. It's kind of like the cobbler's son wears no shoes, right? It's like, it's challenging to have 4 kids, right? Or 2 kids at the time, and begin to to really grow your business. And then you figure out the scale plan. Once you know growth, then you can go to scale. And I've had numerous times where I've had to, intentionally stop for a couple days and think on my business for, a sort of a marathon thinking fest, and really put idea to paper and think through the systems and do they need to be improved? But now we have quarterly, so we have milestones, right? Yeah. Quarterly times to look over that with the team. monthly times to look over that with the team, weekly times. So we sort of macro and micro work through it throughout the year now. And then me as the owner, I have intentional time blocked out in my calendar for thinking on my business every day.
Every day. That was my next
every
question.
Single day.
Because you and I have talked about this, and I've blocked out time, but I don't do it every day. I do it a couple times a week to do the same thing. And there was another friend of a friend who was telling me a little bit about his process, where he literally took the Think and Grow Rich principles and put them into place, and he asked people to do that 3 times a week. So at least 3 times a week, set aside 30 to 60 minutes to think on your business. Same thing.
Yep.
It's funny. I literally had that same conversation with somebody this morning. I was meeting with another member of the Chamber of Commerce in this area, and we were just getting to know each other, our businesses, and if we could help each other. And she just started a cleaning business she's had for about a year now, a little over a year, and it's taken off like a rocket just because of referrals. And she sounded so scrambled, and she was talking about, I haven't forgot to do this, or I wasn't sure I should do this, et cetera. And I'm like, I asked her, I said, when was the last time you sat and just thought about your business? Have you ever set aside time? And she's like, no, I've never done that. So like you've done with me, I said to her, I said, I challenge you to do this. I said, maybe not today because you've already got a full schedule, but tomorrow, set aside at least a half an hour where you can just do nothing but think about your business. Just brainstorm, sketch out everything that comes to your mind about your business, and then review your notes later. Just anything, get it out on paper.
Yeah, I had a client that we talked about this, and I had a client start with me in 2019. He's actually a close friend of mine that I've known since I was 14. We were both 14. We went to, us and our dates went in the same vehicle for prom, right? We hung out a lot. We lived together after college. Well, anyway, we both started businesses at a young, both at 19. And I had caught up with him in 2019 and asked him to review a program I'd rolled out, consulting people in a group, because it's a lower investment, right? So I wanted to get some feedback from another business owner that I trusted, to just take a look at the offer. And at the end, he said, where do I sign up? So he actually was our first client of our group consulting offer, where we were working in a group. And his business went from $200,000 a month to over $1.3 million a month.
Wow.
So They did, yeah. And I literally just talked to him a little while ago, and they should do 16 to 17 million this year.
Wow. Very nice.
And I'll tell you that first, and then I'm going to circle back and tell you what changed, right? So he was fierce about systems. He did the work. He was very coachable, consultable, and he put the work in. We talked about this whole process of thinking on your business, and he took it to heart. And every day he started spending 3 hours. I mean, that sounds insane. I don't spend 3 hours. 3 hours a day, because once he outsourced and we got some systems for his sales team and his operating, he began to stop having to work so much. And the biggest challenge he had that caused him the most work, we fixed that. And so he said, man, I'm done by noon. So he started spending 3 hours. He'd go home from the office. He has a physical office. He'd go home and he'd spend 3 hours thinking on his business, because his wife's an executive for Tory Burch. So she was out. So he's like, I'm just going to sit here and think on my business. That was instrumental in that growth. It was the number one ingredient, right? Outside of the systems to create culture for his company. That was what did it, though. Him spending that much time. Now he works about an hour a day. That's it. I mean, and I say this because it's one of my favorite stories to know that they're about to have their first kid, and he's going to be a dad. He's going to be able to be dad. Everything is streamlined. He could sell the business right now, but why? It's scaling. It's growing month in and month out, and he's 1 hour a day. I mean, just
man.
So I took that. It's like I tell people things and they go and just blow my mind. And I think, well, man, I need to do more of that, right? Maybe I should spend more than 30 minutes a day. And I do spend more than that sometimes, but truly, it's the number one thing that I will leave business owners with when I have calls with them. And I tell them, you have to make your job thinking on your business number one.
Wow. I will admit that all the times you've told me, I haven't made it number one. I mean, I do it, but I haven't really made it that high of a priority. And that's huge. That's huge. I'm glad we're having this conversation, and you all listening now, you're getting part of this conversation too. So you heard it. Yeah. And that's what, do what you coach. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Sometimes the cobbler's son has no shoes though, and that's all right.
That's funny. So wow, that's awesome. And so, wow, I'm still blown away by that. I'm not even sure where to go next.
Well, I'll tell you. So here's the thing. When, one of the things that we're challenged with is that we have our conscious mind and our conscious. So let's go there for a minute, right? The conscious mind is sort of that guard at the gate to the subconscious, and the subconscious has no rules. And so we will do things or not do them, or put intentionality into them or not intentionally put time into that or effort, because it's the cobbler's son. I love that. Because of our past, because of past experiences or fear of the future, right? So when I talk about like think on your business, immediately your subconscious mind goes, you ain't never made $1 during thinking on your business. You've never brought in $1 during doing that. Nobody's ever written you a check while you were thinking on your business. That's not going to feed your family at night. And so that thing that sort of like that shadow, the shadow of your king inside, that subconscious is saying, whispering in the ear, saying, that's not going to work. But the king, the main squeeze, the main cheese up here knows that works.
Yeah.
Because you're a business owner for a reason. You got that entrepreneurial heart. You know how to have vision, and you know how to develop a plan. And if you don't know how, you know how to go figure out finding somebody who does know how to help you.
That's right.
You got everything you need right up here. And we question ourselves too often. And it happens when we're fatigued or overwhelmed or stressed, or we think life is just happening, or we're busy. We're trying to make money. We're trying to make it work. And so we get caught up in those little things, and we forget that what's that? I forgot to zip it up. You got to zip your pants up. Yeah. Don't forget to zip your pants up. Think on your business, right? It's like you never walk outside without doing that.
That's right. Well, and it's it's funny you talk about the subconscious mind. You and I have had this conversation before, and even since you and I first started having that conversation, I've spent a lot of time looking more into that and getting more in depth in that. And it's, even though our conscious mind might be saying one thing, it is our subconscious mind that's absorbing that. So if you're saying that it's not going to do any good, then that's what your subconscious is going to believe. And so, like you said, when you can have that vision, and you can actually train your subconscious mind to start making things happen for you and with you. And so it's what you speak into your world that's really going to start training that subconscious mind, or thinking into your world from your conscious mind.
Yeah. And life is such a matter of perspective. And it was that perspective, your perception was formed as a child.
Yeah.
So what you're speaking of is so true, that your conscious mind is the boss. The problem is the fuel that makes that boss run is the subconscious.
Yep.
And so if you don't go in there and do that work, man, let's see. Giants overview once a week. I love that. That's good. That's intentionality. I love that.
Yeah. So now that he just said this, now I know we're talking to Nick Smith. So because Ryan and Nick both can run this channel right here. So that's Nick Smith, and he's awesome. He's going to be one of our speakers at the event. Actually, both those guys are.
Awesome. Can't wait to meet him.
Yep.
But just going back to the subconscious, right? We have at our deepest level, that right down here in your belly, you've got your inner state of being, and your inner state of being is what controls. That's what the feelings that you have. When you have a feeling, that's where your actual creation happens. You have to feel it. You can't just say it out loud. You have to feel it. There's a reason why the brain will call bullshit when you say I'm a millionaire and you're not. There's a reason why. I'm 7 feet tall. Well, no, you're 6 feet tall. And your subconscious will sit there and remind you of the truth that it knows. And so if you're telling yourself something, but you haven't figured out how to get down there in your gut and actually feel it and get there in the inner state being. And so shameless plug, right? I sit on the advisory board of the Ultimate Business Quest, which is a gamified personal development. On the app, you can go to Apple and Android and download the Ultimate Business Quest. And I'll tell you that this game makes personal development fun, and it teaches you how to get to that inner state of being. And the whole game is meant to teach you how to be a business owner from the inside out, because your inside world is what creates the outside world. The challenge is that we allow the outside world to affect the inside world to a place where then the subconscious thinks that the outside world controls the inside.
Right.
Holy crap, I don't have rent this month. Oh, now I feel bad. The world did this to me. No, they didn't. You needed to go to work, and you haven't worked. That's why you don't have rent. So
did I spell that right? Was that right? The Ultimate Business Quest?
You did. Yeah, the Ultimate Business Quest.
All right, cool.
Appreciate the plug.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of plugs, so for anybody who doesn't know, Jonathan knows, you guys know, most of you know that we got this event coming up here in September here in Panama City Beach, the Upgrade Your Life Tour. And this is going to be awesome. Everyone's going to have a great time. I'm going to throw a quick drop in here from a couple of our speakers.
Hey, it's Colonel Waldo Wolver, the Wingman, Hall of Fame keynote speaker, combat decorated fighter pilot, and author of the national bestseller, Never Fly Solo.
And I'm Laban Ditchburn, the world's best courage coach and author of Bet on You.
We wanted to let you know that we're excited to be your wingman at the Upgrade Your Life Tour in beautiful Panama City Beach on the 17th and 18th of September. We're going to share some of the leadership strategies we learned as decorated fighter pilots and courage Top Guns on how you, as Top Gun entrepreneurs and sales leaders and business wingmen, can adapt to change, lead with courage, and build cultures of collaboration and trust. This program is going to be super high energy and an awesome opportunity for you to network and engage with others who are committed to growth and excellence, just like you. So pack your flight gear and get ready to push up the throttles in Panama City Beach on the 17th and 18th of September.
Tickets are selling fast. Get yours today at upgradeyourlifetour.com.
We look forward to flying with you.
So pumped, man. What a good commercial, man. That's amazing.
Yeah, Waldo threw that one together when Laban was over at his place hanging out for a couple days, and they said, let's do a promo video. He had his nice studio downstairs, and he's like, all right, there we are.
Love it, man. I'm pumped.
Yeah.
Pumped about getting there.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And these guys that are on right now, I know Nick's on right now. He doesn't know what he's got coming in tomorrow yet because we got a speakers meeting tomorrow. So we got some stuff we're going to talk about. Oh, sweet. He just said just grab the app.
Awesome.
Awesome.
You got to give feedback. Yeah, there's a free version, and then you can like pay $2 a month and get some coins. It's like, but man, I will tell you that app was built by a world-renowned clinical hypnotherapist. Right? So a PhD in clinical hypnotherapy, PhD in psychology, 30 years on stages, personal development, hypnotizing, all this different stuff. And this app was built to de-hypnotize people, not hypnotize them.
Really?
That is the thing that blew my mind when I met this company. He said, because he had a mentor that they started talking about this, and they said, actually, what we figured out is that everyone is hypnotized at birth because that's when your subconscious was formed.
Yeah. So
everyone was hypnotized. Then we do the things we do throughout our lives, watching TV, all these different school, all of it actually is hypnotizing.
Huh.
And so what they've done is their aim is to de-hypnotize people and help to show them that you have control over your mind.
Nice.
So
and it's so true.
Flourish.
So true.
Flourish in business.
Listen, he's like, I'll pay for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know if you heard that it was $299,000 per month. That's all, but you're good for it. Yeah. $2.99.
It's like, whatever. It's
that was a contract. No.
His name wouldn't happen to be Tim Scher, is it?
Oh, Dr. Tom. No. It's Dr. Travis Fox.
Travis Fox. Yeah, you did mention him. You did mention him when you and I talked. Because the reason I brought it up is because Tim Scher is also a world-renowned hypnotherapist that I actually met again through a friend and a friend. So I was just trying to put two and two together, but there we are. Easy.
Yeah, easy. Yeah, their team is made up of rock stars. I mean, best of the best. Anyway, you can check them out. You can look up the Ultimate Business Quest. But yeah, we're going to be doing some lives. The app actually just launched today.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Yeah, so it just dropped.
Nice. I'm going to have to download it myself then.
Yeah, so I was actually using the beta. It's crazy how I don't really like playing games.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's because I know that it's personal development. And I got this when I was 19 and I got into personal development. I got addicted.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I want to read a book if it's for personal development. Like someone would give me a novel and I had a really hard time. I can't read that novel. If I'm going to spend time reading, I'm going to read something that's going to better me. And the same thing with my phone, right? If I'm going to do something on my phone, I'm going to play a game, but it is personal development. And like, it teaches you how to coach yourself, which I think that all of, our clients need.
Yeah.
I like to have a coach because I want someone who's but I also need to learn how to coach myself on all the days I'm not talking to my coach.
Yep.
And this app teaches you how to coach yourself. That was something that happened along the way too, is I actually met a guy, a very successful business owner that took my call. He's a podcaster, very big name. And I had a great comment. And he said, you can coach yourself. And we walked through this whole thing. And I said, that's what I've spent my life doing. And long story short, now that I see that there's an app that's nice, got them coins.
Nice.
Got them coins. I love that.
Yeah. Nick's awesome. Nick's awesome. That's awesome. And so I'm definitely going to check that out. And I'm like you. And now I didn't start my personal development at, 19. I dabbled a little bit here and there. But when I was in the corporate world, I was one of those guys that didn't think I needed it because I was like, I had pretty good leaders, pretty good mentors in my, that were my bosses, but as long as I was advancing, I didn't think I needed that stuff. I'd read the book when somebody asked me to read a book. Otherwise I wasn't going out of my way. And then, when we moved to Florida, it was like a light switch. And now this bookshelf here a couple of years ago had like 5 books on it. And now it's packed full. And I got a stack here next to me on my desk of ones that I'm still reading. So I'm like you now. I can't read a novel. Somebody hands me one and I can't do it. It's personal development or nothing.
Yep.
In fact, I'm reading it again for the second time. The Power of the Subconscious Mind.
Nice.
It's funny we're talking about that. So let's talk about another journey that you've done recently, which I'm in the process of working on myself. You went from super fit to dad bod to back to fit again. So let's talk a little bit about that journey a little bit.
The dad bod. Yeah. I went from dad bod to rad bod. My wife and I, that's such a dad statement, right?
Right?
Rad bod. But yeah, when I met my wife, I'm 6'3". When I met my wife, I was 155 pounds.
Wow.
So I had gotten up to 220 before. While I was first time I started working at Bank of America, I went from a gym job to a desk job, and man, I gained the weight. I put the poundage on. So I got up to about 220, and I was like really unhealthy fat. Like, now I weigh 240, but I'm probably 11% body fat, 12% body fat.
Yep.
And my goal is to get to 8 or under. And when I had met my wife, I had some really bad issues. So I actually had some really bad sleep apnea and stuff like that. So it affected my hormones and all this stuff. So when I met my wife, I'd just given up on trying to gain weight, and I just got super fit. Right before I met her, I actually considered trying out for the Navy SEALs. I was going to sign up for the Navy because that's something I wanted to do as a little kid. And my mom got cancer and begged me not to go in. And so I never went in. I was like, you know what? I could go in right now, put the business on hold, and go be a Navy SEAL. I was in the best shape of my life, at 24 years old. I mean, I was 155. You actually do better in the SEALs when you're skinny but strong. And that was me. I was skinny, strong. I could swim for miles, run for miles. Met my wife. She was a bodybuilder at the time. And that's not even why we met, which is so funny because anyway, that's a different story. But fast forward, I got the dad bod. I mean, I literally went from 155 to 170 to 190 to 200 to 220 to 260. And in that process, I did gain some muscle because I did hire some bodybuilding coaches throughout that time. So I definitely gained some muscle, but I was a unhealthy 260, right? No matter which way you shake it, I was over 30% body fat. I mean, I was really unhealthy. So I got had my first kid, tried to make some changes, didn't stick. Then I had another kid, tried to make some changes, didn't stick. Had the third kid, made some changes. Then COVID happened. And COVID, I got large again. And because I was like on the path before COVID, and then all of a sudden COVID hit, no gyms. Okay, well, I'll try to work out from home. And it was just tough. Yeah. You couldn't even get equipment to work out from home. But fast forward, a year ago, I knew our 10-year anniversary was coming up, and I thought, man, I am just like, I'm not excellent in every area of my life. This is that one thing that I have not been excellent in. And I believe I'm an excellent husband. I believe I'm an excellent father. I'm not perfect, but I feel like I'm an excellent, intentional. And the one thing that I kept missing was consistently eating right long enough to change my metabolism. Because then you can go back to cheating more often when you get your metabolism back up. So I had to go through that pain of just switching my metabolism. But I made a choice to change my lifestyle. I didn't go on a diet. I literally just decided if I do have sugar, it's going to be a very small amount. If I do have pizza, it's going to be a small amount. If I do go to have a cheat meal, it's going to be a cheeseburger because that's usually on a cheat meal plan for a bodybuilder. So it was great. So I have a cheeseburger, but I started weighing my food again intentionally to drop weight. I went in the morning, I'd get up at 4:00, drink my, get my workout shakes ready for post. And I could tell you my whole meal plan, but I won't, but I drink raw eggs in the morning. Like, that's just how I do it.
Wow.
Because it takes longer to cook them. So I just crack them into a cup. And then I go and I walk on the Stairmaster for 30 minutes, which is very painful. I hate it. Now I love it for the results it gives me, but and I'll tell you what I do while I'm on the Stairmaster. But then when I'm done, I drink my eggs so I do fasted cardio. Then I worked out. And I only work out for 45 minutes. So I do 30 minutes cardio, then I work out for 45 minutes, including my stretching. So now I weigh 240 still, which is like 8 pounds less than I weighed a year ago. But I'm went from a size like 38, 40, because I was a 42 at my max, but last year I was about 38, 40. I'm down to my 32s are baggy. Like they have run.
Wow, crazy.
So I have a pretty small waist for being 6'3". So, and yeah, man, it's been a journey, but I committed to it, and I committed to the lifestyle change and just said, you know what, if I'm not willing to do this, then I'm not being excellent in every area of my life. And I just chose to make that decision. And I had to start seeing myself, which was so back to the subconscious really quick. That when I made that decision, I said, I have to see myself as being shredded because I want to have a 6-pack. I want to be shredded. That's truly what my goal was. Shred, be the shredded dad. And I saw myself first and I felt it. I felt how good it was going to feel to look in the mirror and be like, I have a 6-pack. Again, I'm shredded. My wife is attracted to me physically. Right? She was attracted to me physically, but I just saw it. I felt it. And that's what I focused on every day. I saw myself like that and felt it. And it wasn't just me being like, oh, willpower, I'll do it.
No, and I love what you said about feeling it. That's what you're talking about earlier about how you get it down here, that belief. I mean, it's one thing to visualize something, but if you can't feel it like it already exists, like it's already there, then you're just going through the motions. You're not actually creating what you're trying to create. You're not actually truly visualizing or into that vision. You really got to feel it. You really got to believe it down deep, or it's just, you're again, just spinning your wheels, going through the motions.
There's hope. That's the kind of hope that doesn't work.
Yes, exactly.
It's just hope. I hope this works. And we all want to say we hope and we pray and all that stuff. And I'm not saying don't pray. I pray. I have a ministry. So like I believe in praying, but I actually believe that we have the ability to look within and feel it. And that feeling, those chemicals that are released when you are feeling, hit your brain.
Right.
And the outside world will eventually mold into what you are creating.
Yes. And it'll happen before your eyes. You won't even realize it's happening. And it's funny you mentioned, the ministry and everything, because one of the ones I got really into Neville Goddard lately. And you got
yes. I have his book. So yes.
But what I love about that is how he relates the power of imagination and awareness and vision to the Bible and to verses in the Bible, and how, so you talk about the ministry and how all this stuff has been written for centuries and nobody really interpreted it that way for the most part. Not nobody, but not very many. And so to see it related that way to where it gives you another example that you can use. By the way, verse XYZ talks about this, and And I loved it. I read that book 3 times twice on the flight to Arizona and once on the flight back, where I highlighted a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, I'll give you 2 people, right, on top of that. So Neville Goddard and Mike Popovich, who's living still out of Colorado. The ministry is called Freedom Ministries, and they talk about, let's see, Statue Stars of Black. Yes, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You see, artists, they get that.
Yep.
They see it first, and then they can create. It's like people always wonder, like, how did they make that statue? That's so true.
Yep.
So Mike Popovich of Freedom Ministries talks about Neville Goddard. He also talks a lot about Joe Dispenza. So I have a bunch of Joe Dispenza. Joe Dispenza is sort of the longer path. The Bible actually says that it has to be easy enough for a child to do. So meditating for 3 hours. Do you think a child could meditate for 3 hours? Like, no. So I like Mike Popovich's take on it, but he also pulls from outside sources. The number one thing I love is that he goes into the original Hebrew and he shows you how the code was actually written to prove that we have the ability to create within, and how and he reads it from the actual Hebrew. So when you read the Hebrew translation and you realize, you know what? This translation, there's no way they could have translated it into an English statement because it just doesn't compute. They're right to left. There's multiple, there's 7 words for love. I mean, it's challenging, even into the Greek or the Aramaic. So anyway, that being said, highly recommend it. You into Neville Goddard, go check out Mike Popovich because the guy's got it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I will. Yeah, and it was fun. It was just a recent find. And it was, I don't remember, it was one of the other books I was reading that was talking about mindset and things like that led me to Neville Goddard. And then I read that and went on to somewhere else. It's been a big circle. It's been working down that path right now while I'm focused on some of the other stuff. So it's kind of fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it.
Love that. Well, and your buddy just posted Habakkuk 2:2, which is, write it on tablets, right? Plain, take the vision, write it on tablets, make it plain for people to see, so those who read it can run.
Yep.
Yeah, even yourself.
Well, and that's the other part. That's the other part that I was just had the conversation with. Again, I met with 3 people. Well, the first 3 people I met with in person today. One of them I was having the conversation with when they were talking about their fears and talking about some of the things that they were trying to remember. I'm like, well, do you ever write these things down? I mean, you can't address things if you just forget them, and you can't rely on your mind. If you're driving down the road and you think of something you need to write down, well, pull out. I mean, if you're driving, you can usually hit your little note thing on your phone and record something, but don't think you're going to remember it, because I mean, everything, the song on the radio is going to change. It's going to change what you're thinking, or you're listening to an audiobook. Now it takes you somewhere else. Write those things down.
I could not agree more. I used to travel a lot around the country doing sales and leadership trainings in person, and my phones all have hundreds of voice memos. When I was driving, and I have an idea book, and I have my journal, and then of course eventually I upgraded to the Remarkable, the little Remarkable tablet. Writes like paper, but it's, you never have to buy paper again, but you got to be able to foot the $500 bill to buy this little thing. It costs as much as an iPad, but it literally is like just having a piece of paper. Anyway, I love it because I like writing on paper. Those voice messages were from exactly what you just said. Driving down the road, miles after midnight, trying to get to the next city, right? If I wasn't flying or, and if I was driving, I would do voice memos. 100%.
Yep. Yes. Yeah.
Love me, Remarkable. I heard it in a pirate voice, so I had to say it out loud when it said, "Love me, Remarkable." Love me, Remarkable.
No, and it's funny. I'm the same way. I mean, I am constantly taking notes, especially since typically when I'm driving, I'm not listening to music. I'm usually listening to an audiobook. Every once in a while, just depending on the mood, I'll throw music on, but it's usually an audiobook, and I'll catch something in there and I'll be like, pause, notes here. Let's read this. I need to follow up on this later. Or even, this is like you, I've got notepads galore. I've got my journal. This says January 3rd this year, and it's supposed to be 365 pages. It's already almost out. So and that's my morning brain dump right there. That's all that is. That's just my morning journal. Not to mention what I do in the evening. It's crazy One thing I'll admit, though, that I could improve at, or I could get even better at, is going back and reviewing some of this stuff, because I write it all out, but I don't spend a lot of time going back and taking a look.
That's your think on your business time right there.
Yes. And I do the think on the business time, but I typically do it over here on this. I don't usually plan for the journal, which is part of what I need to start doing, which is cool because now we're having this conversation and now it's going to happen.
Yeah. And I went to a conference out in California back in 2017, and I filled up like 3 notebooks and me lucky charms.
Had to do it.
And anyway, that was a great conference, but I left those notes for like 2 years. So 2019. I went back and I was reading my notes. So I don't normally do that, but I went to this event. I didn't think that it was super helpful to my business by the end, but I had a great experience and I loved the people that I met. So I loved the event, but I was like, yeah, what am I going to, how am I going to use that for? Well, I went back and looked at my notes just because I was like, before I toss this, I have the Remarkable now. I'm going to toss my notebooks. And I was literally scanning my notes into my phone and then into my Remarkable. And I found some stuff that I wanted to implement in my business, and I forgot that I'd written it down.
And it's funny. Jim Rohn talks about it in some of his stuff. He talks about how he would plan a whole day in a month just to review notes. Forget about the thing. He would literally spend an entire day. He'd plan 8 hours of a day just to review the notes that he had for the month. And I speaking this out right now, I'm like, it's probably a good idea because I got notepads galore with all kinds of stuff you and I have talked about, stuff that I've talked about with other coaches and been through from reading, just makes sense.
Well, let me use an example. So there are times where I'll work with a client. This just recently happened, but I won't use this specific example, but I'll work with a client. I'll tell them, here's the path of what we should do. And here's why. I'll provide them with notes and the call recording. There you go. Right. It's in the shared folder. That's how you read what we went through. Here's your action plan. And then a month will go by and they'll bring me this new problem. And I pull up the notes and I say, well, here's what I said to do with this one. And it wasn't an action item, but I said, there's something we need to put thought into this. And here's what you need to do. It was in the notes. Now we're spending time again working on this little thing that you think's a new problem. It was a problem a month ago. Same exact problem. And this was the suggestion. It's
Oops, sorry, you were in the middle of a talk. I didn't want to put it up there.
I wouldn't say that it hindered my business. I'm a firm believer in fate, and things happen for a reason. It is what it is. Could it have helped my business? Yes. Did it hinder it? No. I'll give you an example. I pay for marketing for my company. Do I need to? No, not necessarily, because I get referrals. So I don't have to pay for marketing. Is it helping my business? Yes. Would it hinder it no, it wouldn't hinder it. So no, it didn't hinder my business, but I wish it was like I had that. Right. Exactly. It wasn't its time. And that's, I felt fine about it, but I was like, oh, I remembered I wanted to look at this when I got home and I just forgot to review my notes. So it was self-created delay, right? And it was fine.
So I cut you off. You were about to say the secret is, and I cut you off. Do you remember what you were going to? I
have no idea. The secret. No, the secret is to consistently be intentional about the time you spend thinking on your business. And if you can, and that just goes by, if that client, right? Clients, we know you're as a coach, and I've coached people and I've consulted and I've, taught from stages, worked with big teams, just like you have. We are a subject of our habits. And unfortunately, the brain works to help you. It helps to protect against burning calories. It protects itself. So that's why we tend to forget things, because now everything goes on autopilot. You wake up in the morning, you get up out of bed, it's all autopilot. You brush your teeth. You don't think, I need to breathe right now. It's everything where a lot of things we're doing as an adult is on autopilot, which is why it feels like time goes so fast. So we got to wake that queen up and say, hey, I'm the king of this castle. I'm conscious, I'm aware, and I'm present. Yep. And if you're in the chat, I'll tell you, this is like one of the hardest things I've done. It was harder than I think that's what helped me believe that I could get back fit, even as being as busy as I am with all the kids, hating working out in the morning, all that stuff, is that I knew that, you know what was harder? The harder thing was breaking those habit cycles that were in the subconscious mind and reprogramming that stuff. That's been the most difficult thing. I
agree. And it's something that in general we struggle with. And it's something I still struggle with. And even though I work with clients on it, I catch myself from time to time and many times. And it's the thing about the subconscious mind that a lot of people don't realize is that you can't trick it. If you stop, like if you're working to tell it something for 5 days and then you take a day off or 2 days off, guess what? It's not cool. Now you got to start over because it's like, oh, you're back to your old habit. Cool. We're back to the old person. Here we go. And so it's trying to back to what you talked about. The intention and the consistency are really what makes a big difference to try to reprogram that. And I'm really curious to learn more about your hypnotist friend about the unhypnotizing, because it's so true. So true.
You'll get it. You'll give it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. From my heart.
Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right from the heart. And I'll tell you, that self-discovery, when you start to learn about those things that sort of programmed us, sometimes it can drum up some trauma and some bad stuff from the past. So just to be willing to deal with that stuff.
Yep. Exactly.
Right. But you have everything you need. You don't need anybody else or anything else. You have everything you need to be successful, to achieve the things you want to achieve.
That's right.
That's it.
That's absolutely right. So we're winding down here. What other words of wisdom can you give our audience before we call it a day?
Let's close it with intentionality, right? So we're talking about being present, and I've had, growing up, both of my parents, they have 9 marriages between them. So I was pretty fierce about being an intentional husband, and knowing that, man, I just want to get married once. And I know things happen, and I have zero judgment to people who are divorced. Like it is what it is. But I just grew up realizing as a kid being raised by a single father and how tough it was. I was like, I want to make sure my kids have a mom and dad. Right. And it's the toughest, this sort of transition out of the unconscious, when you kind of just operate unconsciously into the conscious, you start to intentionally be a parent, which crazy when you have kids that are younger, it's really not that much time. Like me spending 10 minutes with each kid one-on-one changes their day, changes their week, right? People think, oh, I got to hang out with them all day. No, you just got to have some one-on-one time with them. It doesn't have to be an hour. It could be like, hey, we're going to play one board game. Hey, we're going to play, color a picture together. Hey, you want to go with me up to the bank, right? Those things. And I take one at a time, and it makes a difference. Same thing with being a husband, right? When my wife has friends that complain to her about their husbands finding them unattractive while they're pregnant, and then afterwards not wanting anything to do with them because they were pregnant and now they're not the same, whatever. Yeah. I intentionally chose to find my wife sexy and hot while she was pregnant and post-pregnancy and all the time. Right? She's did a great job getting her post-baby's body back every single time. She's a hard worker in the gym and she's committed to her diet. Right. But when she was pregnant, I always found her attractive. I chose to. You look pretty. You look hot. You're sexy. And I was intentional. It's no different than in our lives than it is in our business. If you're not intentional with yourself, then how are you going to truly be intentional with other people? And most people don't start with loving themselves first, right? Going back to love, but we have to be intentional with it and intentionally decide every single time we wake up that this is the best day. This is the greatest time in life to live. This is the greatest country on earth, wherever you live, right? Whatever country you are, no judge. You could be in Cuba and think it's the greatest. You can, and it could be to you, right? I have amazing clients that are constantly coming to me in different areas, and you start to see that stuff when you say it out loud. You eventually start to see it. So my last piece of advice is go be intentional with every area of your life, not just your business.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Guys, thank you so much for being with Jonathan and I on the B. Schmaltzy Show tonight. We'll see you next week, and it's going to have a surprise guest next week. I'll let you know a couple days ahead of time. All right, guys, have a great night. Thank you.